Ladies and gentlemen, now it's Too Late with Alan Mosley. Oh, we're back, baby.
Yeah, man, coming back from all those days off and everybody in town. I'm just,
crazy.
I'm so happy to see everybody, but all the people these days talk about draining your social batteries,
Oh,
Dude, yeah, mine are gonna be, they're on the slow charger. I'll be back in August, I think. My goodness. Guys, welcome back for another episode of It's Too Late. I am your host, Alan Mosley, joined as always by the #1 producer in late night. It's Dave Willimowski. Dave, how are you doing? It's Dave, who is...
I know.
It's newest Blake, and you got to meet Blake.
I did. We were all together. Blake,
yes,
Sherry, me, even some guy that used to produce like before it was even a show or whatever. Met them all. But yeah, I'm tired. I'm burnt out.
Yeah, burnt out.
I'm ready to go back to work.
Yeah, it's time for everybody to head back to their own places of existence and give us money from a distance.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was fun having everyone give us money up close, but now it's time for them to give us money back over there.
Yeah. Over there.
Yeah, over there. I mean, I don't know. Well, I mean, we had, so here we were in Tennessee, and we had Florida and Alabama and Louisiana and Mississippi and Texas and Kentucky and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Oklahoma
crazy.
and Kansas and New York and Michigan and Indiana. Oh my goodness. Is it all America? I'm so glad we could bring all those states into the new Confederacy.
Oh.
Yeah. Really kind of a weird geographic thing there.
Yeah,
I guess we're doing East versus West this time. So all the Eastern states are the Confederacy this time, and all the Western states are going to be China.
China.
Yeah, China. Yeah, it's China.
Okay.
But you know, since we were gone so long getting ready for the event, we missed a lot of news, Dave. Missed a lot of news over this past weekend, so it's time for us to get caught up. Well, starting off tonight in sports news, MMA fighter Jake Shields made headlines last week when he reissued his challenge. Check this out. He wants to fight 10 trans men fighters back to back without breaks in between matches in an effort to prove the biological differences between men and women. We actually have a clip of his training camp for the fights. Here, take a look. Jesus Christ.
Why does that exist?
I don't know. Can we have one of the ladies in chat verify if that's a effective means of
strategy?
Combat? Yeah. Also in sporting news tonight, Kansas City Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker made headlines for comments he made during a commencement speech at Benedictine College, in which he advocated for more conservative Catholicism. He denounced the celebration of Pride Month. He said it was sinful. And he also said, get this, that the most important job a woman can have is to be a mother.
Oh.
Do we have a picture of Harrison Butker?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. There he is.
Yeah.
It's quite a jawline. Quite a jawline for a kicker, I gotta say. Anyway. In celebrity news, Jerry Seinfeld. Remember the old... Did you ever watch Seinfeld? Were you a big Seinfeld guy?
Yeah, I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good. For its time.
Yeah, for its time. Yeah, for its time.
There we go.
Well, anyway, comedian Jerry Seinfeld made headlines during his own commencement speech at Duke University when a number of pro-Palestinian students actually got up and walked out of their own graduation.
Wow.
They did that to protest Seinfeld, who is, of course, a vocal proponent of Israel and its genocide in Gaza. Speaking of which, do we have a picture of Jerry Seinfeld?
Yeah.
Oh, my. My goodness.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't remember that episode, to be honest with you.
I don't.
In election news, congressional primaries were held last night in Kentucky. And you might recall that AIPAC, the Israel lobbyist group, they spent $400,000 running attack ads against incumbent Thomas Massie. Well, folks, the results are in. Take a look at this right here. That's right. Massie won his primary with almost 76% of the vote, proving, of course, that not all Jews are good with money. I'm just saying I could have done more with $400,000. In international news tonight, the nation of Iran is in mourning after its president, Ibrahim Raisi, died in a helicopter crash Monday morning. Those of us left behind to pick up the pieces can only wonder, I wonder what Ibrahim and Kobe are talking about right now. Yeah.
Oh.
Such a good picture. And finally this evening, with concerns about falling... Oh, did you just now get it, Dave? Did you just now get it? You just said, Kobe in the helicopter. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. I just now got it.
Okay, yeah. And finally this evening, with concerns about falling birth rates shaking the nation, President Joe Biden and VP Kamala Harris have recorded some PSAs to help young Americans struggling in the dating scene. Take a look at this first clip from old Uncle Joe.
I say to every young man thinking of getting married, marrying a family of 5 or more daughters. I did. My wife's the oldest of 5 sisters. You know why?
Okay.
One of them will always love you. Not the same one. One of them will always be on your side.
What?
Was that the clip?
I think.
What does that mean?
I guess.
I know what it means. I mean,
These
I
are
guess
a different kind of family.
I guess if one of the sisters aren't available, you just find your daughter. But when things start to get a little bit more intimate, Dave, remember this helpful tip from Kamala Harris.
I have another saying. I eat no for breakfast. I don't hear no until maybe the 10th time. Don't hear no. Don't hear no.
I don't hear no. I'll take that.
Remember, folks, fellas, 9 yos, no's, and a yes means yes. Or actually just 9 no's and not a 10th no. This just means yes. Wow. Oh, man. But before we take our first break, guys, let me tell you about tonight's sponsor, which is Fox & Sons Coffee, which you can find. Steve was here. Steve of Fox & Sons Coffee was here. Oh, my God. Everybody had to walk up to Steve and just go, ITL.
I think he was actually mad at me.
Well, it's because you keep being fans of It's Too Late. Use code ITL and receive 18% off orders of $25 or more. Shipping's always free on orders of $37.99 or more at foxandsonscoffee.com. Actually, check out this. This is the Tanzania.
Ooh, you got a new one.
I tell you what, like literally, this stuff is strong. Like I literally I picked the bag up off the desk and already just the euphoria.
Yeah.
Like I can't, like my eyes are just tearing up right now. Like I'm crying, but it's from joy and a little stinging. Yeah. A little stinging. But let me read you this. It tastes like bourbon. What? So I know you're on board. Yeah.
I'm in.
It's bright and earthy, honey, leathery body with a cherry and orange aroma.
That's a lot of flavors.
Shh. Don't be scared.
Never am.
Shh, don't be scared. So that's the Fox & Sons coffee, which you can find at foxandsons.com. Use promo code ITL. Guys, we're going to be back with the meme of the week and the viewer mail right after this commercial break.
Oh boy.
Back to the show, everybody. Let me tell you about tonight's other sponsor, which is the Tennessee Hot Sauce Company, which you can find at tnhotsauceco.com. If you use promo code It's Too Late, all one word, you get 10% off your entire order. Salsas, beef jerky, which is incredible.
Banging.
Really, yeah. And really affordable, too. Oh, my. I don't know how he takes a percentage off. Yeah. I don't know. Probably because he doesn't actually pay us anything. He just shows up to the events once a year and says, I'm sorry, and just hands me a suit briefcase. And then you and him get into a fist fight. I'm glad you guys can work it out, though. You know, that's the thing about men, right? Like you hash it out and then you're buds again. So anyway, that's the Tennessee Hot Sauce Company, TennesseeHotSauceCo.com. Promo code It's Too Late. Actually, everybody got these. Everybody got these this past weekend. Because we went to the Ninja Japanese, Hibachi Chinese, Mongolian sushi grill
place.
Of
it was actually pretty
Yakutsk.
Nice.
Yes. And they were so nice. Oh my God. Like, because I'll be honest, we kind of just showed up. Like, I didn't.
Yeah, we didn't warn them.
Yeah, but they were so nice. So anyway, spontaneity is the key to unlocking the door to endless possibilities.
I'm gonna need a minute with that. Hold on.
Yeah. Let's take a moment to reflect on that.
That's a lot of words.
Yeah. It's a lot of words, but also I don't want to encourage you to be spontaneous on my show. Because whenever you're spontaneous, you get
angry.
Yeah, I get pretty upset. Yeah. Hey Dave.
Yes, Alan.
What time is it?
It's time for meme of the week.
Which was misdiagnosed by I'm not going to say what race, what people, doctor. It was a Jewish doctor.
That didn't take long.
Yeah. You just got to get to the bottom of the bottle. But we do have a bonus meme. Check out the bonus meme.
That's sad.
Oh yeah, I don't know why we're laughing. That's sad. Yeah. Dude looked pretty upset. Oh God, we're already running out of time. Let's answer some viewer mail.
Nope.
God, so serious.
It's high tech.
Tonight on CNN.
Hot dog?
Yeah.
Sandwich?
Josh writes, Dear Alan and Dave, with so many transplants and the rise of social media, is the South losing its identity? Josh, dude, the South lost its identity like a long time ago because all these Yankees keep moving into this area.
There's a lot of houses being built down there.
Yeah, like we invite our Yankees here to visit. And then we ask them kindly yet firmly to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Like 4 days, that's good, I think. You know?
Yeah.
And now there's people in chat saying, oh yeah, this is so nice, I'm going to move. God damn it. All right. Next year.
See what you're doing?
Yeah, we got to find some hellhole to host next year's live event. Next year's live event's going to be in Gary, Indiana.
Oh.
Yeah. And now Justin's like, shit. Yeah. All right. Celeste Annis writes, Dear Alan, and hi, Celeste. Oh, it would have been so great if Celeste was here this year.
Yeah.
Since we moved the event to this week specifically for Celeste. Remember? Yeah.
I remember.
I'm just saying some little personal responsibility go a long way, Celeste. During your childhood, did you frequent the roller rink? You big skater?
Oh.
What about you,
Oh,
Dave?
man, the roller rink was the place to be when I was a kid, man.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, jamming out, New Kids on the Block, trying to roller skate backwards.
Mm-hmm.
I think I could do that. Yeah, I used to do that. That was pretty good.
I have literally never worn a pair of skates in my life.
That explains some stuff. Hold on.
Yeah, gonna put that. Yeah, go ahead and put that.
It's going in the file.
That's fine. Jonathan Carranza writes, Dear Alan and Dave, what is your favorite drink? Dave, what's your favorite drink? He didn't specify any particular kind, just your favorite drink.
Bourbon. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. On a deserted island, gotta live 60 days. Bourbon.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah.
That if you mix it with water, it makes it fresh water, right?
I'm skipping Justin's question because Justin's getting like the next 40 minutes of the show. So I don't think it's fair for him to steal a few minutes here. Andrew Avery. Oh man, Andy. I hope Andy comes back next year. I keep on telling him that the next year he comes, he should just have to do like an hour of stand up. Which just he has this little book of puns and he just reads them. Yeah. Andrew Avery writes, Dear Alan and Dave, do pirates get their hooks at a secondhand store? All right, I will admit when I first read that, I went, Like I breathed out of my nose for a second. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty good though.
Yeah. Dave Willimowski Jr. writes, Dear Alan and Dave, are we still doing this?
Oh. Yeah.
You lost in the 10th. You got another year. Maybe next year. All right.
That was brutal.
Well, you think I'm going to let you get away with this?
Yeah.
All right.
I have 3 more pins.
Gary Deister writes, Dear Alan and Dave, what's your favorite part of Starship Troopers? The bug killing or the co-ed showers? Oh, it's got to be the co-ed showers.
Yeah. Bug killing's cool, but yeah.
I mean, it's cool, but that's dangerous. You can get hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
No. You only get hurt in here. Yeah.
In the showers.
Yeah, in the showers. Matt Lacey writes, Dear Alan and Dave, after Alan's expiration, I'll get the clock for the finale. It's across the room. Yeah. I have it where I can see it. It just is always reminding me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. After Alan expires, will Dave continue the It's Too Late live event? You doing the live event in a couple of years without me?
I could, but it's going to be here. I'm not going down there.
Yeah.
It got down to 72, and I said it's getting kind of chilly, and I knew I was getting infected.
Mm-hmm.
I'll stay here.
Yeah. See, but the thing is, though, is you're going to try to have it up there like Erie, and people are going to be like, I'm not taking a vacation to Erie, Pennsylvania. Jesus. Might as well do Gary, Indiana. All right. Let's see. Lyle, your question's retarded. Aaron Kittner writes. I love Lyle, but his question's retarded. Yeah. Aaron Kittner writes, Dear Alan and Dave, what's worse to deal with when driving? Bicycle riders or people who don't use their turn signal? Ooh. Oh, it's got to be the turn signal, I would think.
Yeah, you come across that more often.
Well, because with the bike, I'll just go through you.
Yeah.
You won't stop my car. Mm-hmm. But with the people in other vehicles, I'm having to watch for their signal. You know what I'm saying?
That makes sense. Yeah. Sounds safer.
I don't know what's going on over there in our 200-person live chat, but Celeste just said Long John Silver's instead of Waffle House, and don't you tempt me with a good time. Y'all were joking about the Confederate Museum, and look what happened. And everyone had a wonderful time. So, yeah, Lyle, that's right. Your question really did blow my mind. It's true. Carl Huber writes, Dear Alan and Dave, is a taco a sandwich? It's not a sandwich because with a hot dog, the hot dog bun is bread, and so it's just bread over the meat. That's a sandwich. But a taco is a shell. A shell is not bread. A shell is a separate container. It's its own thing. And so a taco is in a taco shell. And don't even at me with your crazed hobo tacos that are just flat. No, you gotta,
Yeah.
Like you're holding a Rhea egg. You gotta, I gotta get that picture. Yeah, I gotta share that picture. Oh my God. For a lot of reasons, that's a good picture. Mary Lynn Milomowski writes, Dear Alan and Dave.
Oh.
How many cicadas do you think landed on you over the weekend? Yeah, this is a big cicada year for us.
Yeah.
So it's actually 2 different swarms of cicadas whose year fell on the same year. Mm-hmm. And they're just out there having unprotected sex.
Pouring it up.
Mm-hmm. They should listen to Harrison Butker.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing that a female cicada can do is... Well, actually, that's not the best thing for us, I guess. I wish they'd all just...
Yeah, we don't need that many cicadas. There's a lot of them.
Yeah. Do you have a bunch of them land on you? They don't bite or sting, They're just big, fat nuisances. They just yell.
Yeah, that's pretty much the consensus. They just smack into you and buzz at you, and then... They don't fly away, though. You actually have to take them off and throw them.
Yeah.
But, it was kind of neat.
Imagine human cicadas, because they don't bite... They don't sting. They literally just headbutt you. And then when you're like, what are you doing? They just scream. They just scream. Like if you've ever been to a big enough city and walked around the hobo encampment and the one guy that just, that's a cicada. And you're just
kind of like that. Yeah.
You put your hand on their head and just push down, away.
Get away from.
Yeah. All right. That hurt my throat a little bit.
It was quite a yell.
All right. Ryan Seifert writes, Dear Alan and Dave, are we long overdue for a female president? All right. So I remember having a conversation with my mother all the way back in like, oh gosh, this was like 2003 or 4. And I told her we will have a black male president before we have a white woman because Americans will not accept a woman. And she told me I was crazy. There's no way, of course, she's racist. So there's no way that there's going to be a black president, but there'll be a woman in the near future. And boy, did I call it or what. Like, so if you're wondering, what type of hatred do Americans have the most of? It's not racism. It's sexism.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
it is what it is.
It is what, it's, it's just the way she goes. All right. And finally this evening, Keith McQuarrie writes, Dear Alan and Dave, are you concerned about the amount of people who are poisoned by dihydrogen monoxide every year? Keith, I'm now actually mad at myself because I saw your question come in at the last second and I had already written it off as a terrible one. And now I accidentally read it out loud. So I guess just to cleanse my palate, I'll go back up to Lyle. Lyle had said, in terms of evolution, did fish already know what was going to happen with humans and just decide to stay in the water? No.
No, that's not how it works.
That's not how any of this works. Yeah.
No.
He's from Mississippi, for God's sakes. Like,
A lot of question about the fish down there.
Yeah, he believes that the fish got here 6,000 years ago. So, Well, I'm sorry. The guy who wrote that question in chat, ladies and gentlemen, watching the show, is in our live chat, and he says, "Then why are they there?"
Yeah.
Hey,
Why'd they stay?
That's that. I feel like
question.
that's after party type talk right there. Yeah. After we've had
dig into that.
Yeah. Guys, we're going to be back with our good friend Justin Campbell of the Fact Check This podcast right after this commercial break. Don't go away. Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for It's Too Late with Alan Mosley. Email us at info@alanmosley.tv. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Our guest this week, making his third appearance on the show, is the host of the Fact Checked This podcast, which you can see down there, episode 334, Justin Jim's dumb. Jesus Christ. We got to start vetting our guests a little bit better on this program. Justin Campbell, welcome back to the show.
I didn't realize that you were going to pull up my podcast page. I might have put a different episode at the top. Yes. So before coming down for the event over the weekend, me and my buddy Jim sat down on Friday night and did our dumb gay shit show because we were tired of talking about serious stuff. So we wanted to just talk about how stupid and gay and retarded everything is. So that's what we did Friday night. It was an hour and 50 minutes of recorded and probably 3 hours total of just like a whole bunch of us sitting around shooting the shit, and it was amazing. So the episode itself is pretty decent though.
Well, of course, that was really the whole point of the live event weekend for everybody coming here in town, is that you leave your autistic political garbage at home. You're going to come down here, you're going to learn about the South, you're going to get ready to fight for the Confederacy, and then you're going to leave home with some chicken fajita nachos. That's it. That's all you're here for. I don't want to hear anything about the Fed or housing regulation or who you're voting for in November. Frankly, if anybody there says they're voting for anybody, it's like, oh, that's the Fed. That's the one. That's the one right there. So anyways, Justin, I've been really busy the last few days, obviously, and I've missed some of the sports news. and you came on and you were telling me, oh, we got to talk about the new beef in the WNBA. I didn't see. I've always, as an outsider, I always thought, well, the WNBA is like this big, kumbaya. All the teams like work together, and it's still the old school sportsmanship of, oh, whoever won, oh, good for them. That's so nice. But of course, we know women can't possibly be that way. Certainly not in a competitive atmosphere. So, Justin, what's going on in the WNBA ever since Caitlyn Clark showed up?
Oh, typical women being women. Also, I apologize. Any ratings that you might have, they will now go in the tank, at least for the next 10 minutes or so while we talk about this. So, for those who somehow managed to completely avoid the social media storm that was Caitlyn Clark in women's college basketball over this past season, it was a pretty big deal. So they were getting like the best ratings on everything that women's college basketball has ever had, period. And a lot of it stemmed from Caitlyn Clark kind of came on the scene very strong and very talented player, putting up a ton of points. And then in the 2023 NCAA tournament, there was some beef that started with her and Angel Reese, who was a player for LSU. And so, it's women being catty and all of that stuff. And it was entertaining. It was fun. But then it turns into this whole racism thing because Angel Reese is black and Caitlyn Clark is white. And it's been this whole thing that as women's college basketball became very popular over this last year and did really well ratings wise, not just really well for women's college basketball, but really well in general.
Period. Yeah.
Yeah. It became a big thing. And for people who don't know how the sport works, it was really kind of interesting to watch and follow, and there was all kinds of craziness around it. So there's this manufactured beef between Angel Reese and Caitlyn Clark, which it would seem in person doesn't actually exist. But for all of the people who don't know anything about basketball, much less women's basketball, it was this massive thing for the entire season. And it was really fun, and it probably drove some of the engagement as well. Well, now they've both made it to the WNBA, and it didn't stop. Like you were saying, it should be this big kumbaya, everybody gets along, especially when you have a sport that has just been floundering and dying for the entire time it's existed. I think maybe in the late 90s, early 2000s, when you had some of the Lisa Leslie and Rebecca Lobo and some of the big names that when women's college or women's Olympic basketball was really just dominating, and it was kind of a big deal, and when they launched the WNBA, it had some traction, some following, and then it died because, well, yeah, we don't need to go into why. It's women's basketball. I mean, and I say this as a huge fan of women's basketball. I got my college paid for on a women's basketball scholarship, so I love women's basketball, but it is a much different sport than men's, and it's sometimes like watching paint dry. So they have an opportunity now where you've got the most popularity for this sport that they've probably had in its entire existence, and they're doing catty woman shit and kind of ruining it. And you have this whole new audience that wants to watch good women's basketball for some reason. And then they're behaving like typical women and going after each other, and and not just the players, but the coaches and everything else. They have actively gone after Caitlyn Clark. And then you've got this whole other faction that's every time Caitlyn Clark has a game and Angel Reese has a game, they want to do side-by-side comparisons of the two players. And also there's just a whole lot of not understanding how basketball works, but not understanding how women's basketball works, that is really kind of muddying the whole thing.
Well,
And it's
let me ask you about that really quick before we kind of get more into Caitlyn Clark in particular and Angel Reese. It's like so I knew that you had a history with women's basketball. Of course, Justin was the trans long before the trans movement, so he was a women's basketball player. But I know you've talked about how the women's game, it's a different game. It's the same sport, but it's really a different game. And I think that there's some parallels to that I think people would understand. Like, I mean, college football and professional football are different games. Different positions have different weight. You're running a pro style offense versus some things you see in college. No one's running the wing tee, in professional football. So how is the women's game different?
So I would think of it more like how college baseball is different from professional baseball with the bats and stuff. It's a difference of equipment, not literally and figuratively. Like, there are things that men are physically able to do that women just can't. Like, you have to game plan and coach differently for the women's game than you do for the men's game. Like, they are naturally a little bit slower. They're not as athletic. They also have a different mentality. Like, you have to factor in the way that the female brain works to some of that stuff. And especially when you have entire teams together and the way women interact with each other, like, everything about it is different. Women and men are different creatures, regardless of what society wants to believe. They are very different. And so when you're dealing with that, you have to take that in. You have to understand that. I had a friend that was a pretty good high school basketball coach when we were younger, and he went from coaching boys to coaching girls, and he just tried to implement, one for one, the exact way he was running the boys programs to the women's program, thinking that, we're going to do this run and jump, full court press style defense and do all of these things and yada, yada, yada. And it's going to just we're just going to crush because these other women's teams or, girls teams aren't going to be prepared for this. Well, yeah, they don't have to be prepared for it because the girls that you have doing it physically cannot do those things and execute them to the effectiveness that a men's team can. And that's just the reality of it. So there are a lot of differences in the game. And one of the things that, so Caitlyn Clark had her first game, and it was, a big ordeal. And also they got beat by 30, and she had 10 turnovers. And that was a huge deal was made about that. The transition from women's college basketball to women's professional basketball is very possibly even greater than that from men's college basketball to men's professional basketball. Every NCAA team in the country could realistically, to some extent, have a shot to win the tournament. If you made the field of 64 or 68 or whatever, there's a decent chance that you could win a couple games. Even as a 16 seed, there's still a decent chance. At the women's level, it's much, much, much different. You don't get upsets in the women's tournament. You can almost go ahead.
I was going to say, because, I'm from Tennessee. I'm old enough to remember that, UT and UConn won every game and every championship ever because it's a talent pool thing, right? There's only a couple of dozen women in the whole country. There's plenty that play basketball, but to be just really freakishly gifted athletes, you can count them on your fingers and toes. So after the top, not even the top 10, the top 5 teams, there's a huge drop down in natural talent. And so, yeah, your local community college is going to lose to UConn by literally 100 points because those are girls that, even if they had to play another sport, even if, this is why they had title, right? Is because they're trying to force schools to have teams where it's well, we're struggling to find the girls. We're just struggling to give the scholarships, even if we had them, because we just can't field the teams. It's not a value judgment, by the way. It's just a fact of life.
Right. And that's something that, so when I say that I got my college paid for by women's a women's college basketball scholarship. I worked for Mississippi State when in 2002-2003 season. They were top 10 in the nation. They had a player, LaToya Thomas, who went number 1 in the WNBA draft that year. One of the other players on the team, Tan White, she went number 2 in the WNBA draft 2 years later. They were stacked. They had a good team. And then I moved back home and went to Murray State. And Murray State was in the OVC championship game every year that I was there, and won it a couple years after I had left, or after I graduated. Very good team. The difference between a top 10 Mississippi State program with number 1 and number 2 WNBA draft picks, and the best team in a mid-major conference with the conference player of the year for the next 5 years. It's almost indescribable. And even to put it in perspective, that top 10 team, I could put together a team of a scout team of guys I played high school basketball with, and we would run circles around them all day, every day. So trying to differentiate those differences in the women's game it's hard for people to grasp, especially people who have never paid attention before. So when Caitlyn Clark is coming into the WNBA, like you were saying, there is a limited talent pool. There are only a handful of players who are really legitimately that good. There are 12 teams in the WNBA, and I think I want to say it was 63 or 68% of the draft picks every year actually play. They hold the draft every year, and just because you get drafted doesn't mean you're actually going to end up being good enough to play. So Caitlyn Clark went from playing against, a bunch of college players where probably odds are 99% of them would never even sniff a WNBA roster, to now playing against literally the best women in the world every single night. There's a huge adjustment period. And I'm pretty sure it was Diana Taurasi. She played for UConn, forever ago, and was really, really good women's college basketball player, and a good pro as well. She said, people are going to have an expectation of Caitlyn Clark that is unrealistic because of the adjustment period coming into the league. It's almost impossible to make a real good comparison. People just don't understand what that gap is, that talent gap, and because you don't see it in any other sport, especially in men's sports. The difference between the guy who was drafted number 1 in the WNBA or in the NBA draft and the guy who was drafted at the bottom of the NBA draft is nowhere near as significant, and so it's just hard to fathom that those differences.
Yeah, well, it's in a good, some people might recall some of the kind of, exposition and celebrity things that happened. Wasn't it something like the 298th ranked male tennis player played the Williams sisters back to back on the same day? Of course, straight sets, both of them, boom, boom. But of course, that was for fun. They're laughing, they're having a good time. It wasn't meant to be serious. They weren't like, oh shucks, we didn't win. They knew they would lose because they knew that they couldn't return a serve. But male tennis and women tennis is different because the women are not setting up to defend 140 mile an hour serve because they know it's not coming. They don't ever have to even think about it, So I definitely get that. One thing that kind of popped into my head, I don't know how this turned in. This whole interview is going to wind up being WNBA. So sorry, everybody. But I'm reminded of when Tiger Woods was a kid and he was brand new on the scene in professional golf, and there was that Tiger Woods effect where if you turn on ESPN, they're only following Tiger Woods. If you go to the website, the only score they show is Tiger Woods. Now, granted, he was very good and he was near or at the top in a lot of tournaments. No one's saying that that's not true, but if you were a casual, just, channel switcher, you'd think he was the only one out there on the course that day for months and years on end before finally he started to get a little bit older. You started to have some fresh blood come in. But it was like that for so long that it almost like it can breed resentment, because there's professional athletes of any stripe. They're competitive people. They didn't get there by being lazy and stupid. They got there by working hard and being very naturally gifted as well. And so let's get around then to all this beef that's going on in the league. Would you say that because I don't know if manufactured's the right word. Like sometimes I hear, oh, so and so and so and so are doing this. I'm like, oh, that's bull. These guys are just here to collect a paycheck. They don't actually give a crap. But do you think that to a certain extent it's actually genuine because you have a whole league of professional women who they didn't know who Caitlyn Clark was 5 minutes ago? They don't give a damn. And now they're hearing, oh, your league, she's the face of your league. I don't care who you are. Caitlyn Clark's the face of your league. Do you think that breeds resentment?
Absolutely. I mean, women tend to have a predisposition towards that type of behavior anyway. But so yeah, I mean, it definitely plays a part. And I think probably the biggest thing, because you've seen it from some of the coaches on other teams in the WNBA who like talked about this, like there's been such a big deal of Caitlyn Clark coming in and the eyes that she's brought to the league and to the sport, that there's definitely some resentment. There are others who are like, it's all women, not just one woman. Like it's the WNBA for women, not just Caitlyn Clark NBA. And there are, there's stuff like that that's come out. Except that like nobody knew anything about any team in the WNBA 3 years ago. Like if it wasn't for the fact that Caitlyn Clark is coming up, nobody probably would know. Like the WNBA reigning champions have a girl. Their star player is Jackie Butler, and she's from here local, from Princeton, Indiana. And so, like around here, there's a big deal made of it. If you go literally anywhere else in the country, nobody knows who Jackie Butler or anything else about the WNBA at all. Like it's just not, unless you're a fan, you don't know. And even a lot of people who pay attention to college women's basketball don't know or give a shit about the WNBA. Like there's such a drop off, and it's why, like, they talk about this revenue sharing and stuff like that. And somebody did an interesting video that I saw the other day that talked about like the WNBA. So there was a big deal about Caitlyn Clark's rookie contract versus Wemby for the Spurs, who was last year's #1 pick in the NBA. And like the massive difference, because I think Caitlyn Clark's going to average like $78,000 a year. I mean, that's not a bad salary, but especially to work like literally 2.5 months. But anyway, like there was a big deal about the salaries and stuff made, and they're like, it's not that we want to be paid the same as the NBA players. It's that we just want to have the same revenue share. And it's like, well, the WNBA hemorrhages like a lot of money every year. The league has, I don't think, ever turned a profit. So and the guy did the math. He was like, all right, there's 12 teams, this many girls on each or this many women on each team. This is how much the league loses every year. So if you do your profit sharing, then every one of the players owes the league $83,000. It's like, that's like, that's how that kind of thing works out. And like the WNBA is 100% subsidized by the NBA. Like the NBA profits go towards keeping the WNBA afloat. And that's just what it is. Like people aren't interested in that. Not even at the same extent that they're interested in college women's basketball. Like it's kind of crazy, but at the same time, like, why? I love college. I love college women's basketball. I love women's basketball, and even I'm like with the WNBA. A lot of times, I'm like, why?
Yeah, sure. Well, we'll pause right there. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about that, because we actually, Justin, we discussed that a week or two ago about the financial factor of the huge difference in the leagues, and if you and of course I'm not saying you, but if you're a WNBA person that says that, well, we deserve a certain amount of equity and respect, that, well, obviously what they could do is just completely break ties with the NBA and earn it on their own. And then, hey, if they become $1 trillion organization, then that would be all their money, and no one would have a single bit of entitlement to it. But you don't hear calls for that quite so loudly as you hear calls for just give me the money. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that right after this commercial break. Enjoy. It's Too Late is proudly sponsored by Fox & Sons Coffee. Fans of It's Too Late use code ITL to receive 18% off orders of $25 or more. Shipping's always free on orders over $37.99. Visit them online at foxinsons.com. That's foxinsons.com. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Our guest this evening, once again, of course, is Justin Campbell, who does a show about dumb gay shit. So, Justin, speaking of that, so as I mentioned before the break, we talked a little bit about you just looking at the number differences between the NBA and the WNBA, in that, of course, NBA players, because, they have collective bargaining and the players union and all that, some of the arguments that they take to the table when they're negotiating, the next union deal and that sort of thing is, well, look at what the league's revenue is, look at the value of the teams. And then if you just said, each player on average was going to get X point, whatever percent of this revenue, than the average player, because that's how they're coming up with like league minimums and contracts and that sort of thing. All the leagues do it. But of course, boy, you don't hear a lot of those same union talking points when it comes to the WNBA, do you, Justin?
No, and it's one of those things. So we saw it with the U.S. women's national team in soccer several years ago.
Sure,
because
yeah.
they were winning World Cups and Olympic medals and stuff like that, and so they wanted more money. They wanted to earn their fair share, whatever. And then like all the numbers started coming out, and it's like, well, actually they make per like on the based on the revenue that they bring in, they actually make way more than what the men do. Like, yeah, the total dollar figure is lower. So do you want equality or do you want equity? And this is an argument that gets made across everything is, do you want equality or do you want equity? Because if you want equality, then you should both be paid, the women's team should be paid the same percentage of revenue as what the men's do. And so, if your league has literally never turned a profit, then that doesn't look real good, and people don't want to talk about that kind of stuff. And as soon as that stuff started coming out, all of the, for the women's national team, all of that conversation went away. When the numbers started coming out, then people don't want to talk about it anymore. It's like, oh, well, you can't let these pesky stats and facts get in the way of the bullshit that we want to promote. And so that's why, a lot of that stuff also goes away really quickly whenever it starts getting talked about with the WNBA, because whenever people have not followed women's basketball at all, ever, and then they're like, oh my gosh, the number one pick gets paid $78,000 a year. That's insane. It's like, well, yeah, well, do you know how much the league made? Like, that's insane. Why doesn't the league actually turn a profit? Why don't they make money? Well, because all of the people who are so up in arms about how they don't get paid enough and they want, equal pay for women and stuff like that, don't actually watch the sport. They don't actually support it. They don't go to the games. Like, they're this year, I think every game that Caitlyn Clark has played in has been in front of a sold out crowd. And that does not happen in the WNBA. So you have this thing that's happening that could actually make you a profitable organization, or break even. Let's just start with break even, right? Like you have this opportunity, and instead, like, women are being women, and they're being catty, and they're being pissed off about it, and they're going out of their way. Like I have actually watched decent portions of couple games that Caitlyn Clark has played in, and they're going out of their way to go after her. Like, this is the future of your league. This is your opportunity to actually be popular, and you're going to go out of your way to make her look bad. That it's the NBA. For as much as we may absolutely hate the way that they market their stars and the way that they cater to and pander to their stars with, letting LeBron flop and all the bullshit calls and stuff like that, and coddling and babying their superstars, it's because they understand the marketing and the branding, and like, this is the face and the name that's going to build your popularity for the next 10 years. So you do everything you can to ride that, and to sap as much success out of that as you can. The WNBA has not done that at all. They've done good marketing work, but the league itself is not. See, this is going to get all the bread and circuses sports ball folks all up in arms, because
they already turned off, so just do whatever you want.
Okay, so
yeah,
so there's a certain level of manipulation that can be done with games and with teams and stuff like that. Like, I couldn't believe that the WNBA didn't do something to get the Indiana Fever to pick up a second legit star player to put alongside Caitlyn Clark, so that they wouldn't be getting beat by 40 points in every game because the team itself is so bad. Like I fully believe that Angel Reese would have a better career in her first 2 or 3 years than what Caitlyn Clark will, because Reese went to a better team. So she's going to look better by proxy to the others than what Clark is, because she doesn't have anybody else to play with, and playing 1-on-5 is hard enough in a fair league. Like, now she's going against like literally the best on the planet. So yeah, I mean, the way that they have not really done what they should to build this into something that can be a lasting thing is a little bit disappointing, but also not surprising, because women just aren't wired that way. Like, I don't understand why, but they instinctively need to tear each other down. And you see it across social media, across sports. Like, there was the Marjorie Taylor Greene, AOC, and Jeanette Crawford or Crockett video where they're like in Congress at each other's throats over a fake eyelashes comment. Like, this is how women are programmed. They can't help it.
Yeah. Well, if I was going to play a little bit of devil's advocate, I would say that, like, as it pertains to the NBA, I'm an old school guy, so I think, the NBA peaked in the 80s. Because it didn't just peak, it saved it. The NBA was not doing great. Magic and Bird come in and save the league, and they weren't the only good players in the league. There was a lot of good players. There were a lot of legendary Hall of Fame guys, but the league financially was not doing well. And it got turned around. It got turned around in time for Jordan to come in. Who knows what kind of career Michael Jordan has if the NBA is just, is like the triple A's by the time the late 80s come along. I mean, we don't know, but they were able to turn it around, and they were able to turn it around with a physical league, really highly competitive league. Referees are swallowing their whistles. You have the bad boy Pistons. Of course, obviously you have the Lakers and the Celtics. A lot of iconic players. And so it was a much different game than it is today. You didn't have the same kind of coddling that you were just referencing just a moment ago. And you could make the argument that, they made some short-sighted decisions, You perhaps you could make the argument that, well, they were trying to extend the average shelf life of some of their biggest names. That, well, if Bird cracks his back trying to pave his driveway like a retard and then he can only play for another few years, no, we want LeBron James to play for 20 years, but that's less likely to happen if these guys are beating the shit out of each other every single night, So I guess I'm saying I don't agree. I certainly don't agree with what the NBA has done, but I can understand the argument behind why they did some of the things. I just think that it was the wrong decision. But in the WNBA, I feel like it's kind of an equal and opposite conversation of, well, look, if the players want to make $50 million a year, but that's just not financially feasible because the league doesn't do that well, it doesn't draw that kind of numbers, then you could make the argument of, well, shouldn't they be trying some things? Shouldn't they be trying to build some drama and to try to get more eyeballs? Because just simply trotting out there and shooting the ball around isn't cutting it. I'm not going to sit here and talk about all the reasons why I think that women's basketball is not as popular. Can't be the 40 missed layups a game. But I'm not going to sit here and talk about the reasons why. It's just to say the market has spoken and the game as it exists is simply not as popular. So couldn't you at least make the argument that, well, maybe they should be trying to do some things to change the game or change the image because they are trying to get to that level of equity that they want?
Absolutely. I think the biggest problem with that is you have to have buy-in. Like, Bird and Magic got to set the stage and become the thing that the NBA went into. And that's also probably to an extent why a more physical game was necessary, because you had these rivalries and these matchups, and a lot of it got played up, and it became this thing that made it very popular. And so then you get to unleash some of the animosity too. But you've got to allow the thing to establish itself and become something that's garnering popularity before you can just let them go beat the hell out of each other. The WNBA is just starting to get its toe into that. And like, they could turn Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese into a thing. And then you can have some of the players that are, more established, like the Jackie Butler and the Diana Taurasi and some of those, like, they all serve a role in that. Like, the players who had already been there played a big role in Magic and Johnson Magic and Bird and everything that kind of built going from the 80s into the 90s to make the NBA as popular as it was. The WNBA has an opportunity for that, but there has to be some buy-in and everybody getting on the same page and working together towards that. Like, Bird and Magic were friendly outside of the games against each other. You saw in like the '92 Dream Team, all of those players, for as much as they absolutely hated each other, and obviously there are some exceptions. Like, I don't think anybody liked Isaiah Thomas, but like there are some exceptions. But like, all of those guys were uber competitive, like champions, wanted to win all the time. But when you put them all together, like, they could get along. The women seem to have problems with that, other than the ones, and I think that could be why you don't see fresh blood introduced into the women's Olympic teams as much. Like, if you look at the last few women's Olympic teams, they tend to be a lot of the same people over and over and over again, until they find a next group that can mesh and work together. Like, they don't change parts a whole lot. The men's teams tend to, like, they have parts that change every year, or every Olympics. Like, you can put a whole bunch of dudes together, and once they kind of figure out their pecking order of the alpha males and who has their jobs and doing what, it's like the videos that made the rounds several months ago, where you have all the men that were put on the island and all the women that were put on the island, and the men are like thriving and having fun and killing pigs and doing all kinds of crazy shit, and the women are all just like wandering around in circles starving to death. if you watch those videos, once the men kind of established a pecking order and figured out what their roles were, what they did well, how it worked together, they thrived. And it took them a little while to figure that out. But once they did, it was all great. The women never could, because they just constantly kept undercutting each other. Whenever one of them would come up with a good idea, the rest of them would undercut the idea. And so like they never developed any organization or cohesiveness. And so that's where the WNBA is right now, is they need to develop some sort of a cohesiveness where they can rally around, hey, look, whatever you think about Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese being the new face of a league that's been in existence for 25 years and has never turned a profit, this is our opportunity to take a step in the right direction. But we've all got to get on board with it. And getting women to get on board with something like that could prove challenging.
Well, one thing that actually just popped into my head just now, and is something that you hear very popularly when you talk about the gender wage gap / gender wage gap myth, is that it's a myth because, of course, there's not really a gender wage gap when you control for all factors so they're exactly equal. If you were an evil capitalist that only hired men and there was a woman available to do it, and you wouldn't pay her, you wouldn't take a 10% cut just to keep in the register, you're an idiot. You're a bad boss. You're a bad HR manager. And so it's kind of nonsense, but why does it happen? It's like, well, if it's not, based on evil, then why does it appear? And of course, one of the big reasons is, and this applies here, is starting families, having children. Of course, and by the way, this is not a knock on the WNBA players. If anything, this is a knock on the NBA players, is that, there's a lot of guys who they live and breathe their sport. And then when their body tells them you can't do this anymore, they struggle. I mean, God, some of these guys die in their 40s and 50s for a variety of reasons, or they lose all their money in a decade, or they just kind of wander off into obscurity, because without that thing that dominated their life for so long, they have a hard time finding, like, well, who am I? What do I do now? And that happens, and that's not, again, that's not a value judgment, but there's men who struggle with that. But vice versa, you've got women. I just Candace Parker popped in my head. She went to UT and was really successful. Only in a women's sport can you have a player play for 4, 5, 6 years, be at the top of the game, just pseudo retire for a year or two because they're going to go start a family, and then just wander back into the office. Men don't typically do that, obviously. Michael Jordan took off because, his dad gambled. But other than that, Michael Jordan didn't leave and then come back in a couple of years because he was having kids. You just don't see men do that because they're trying to grind. For one, it's all they know is playing the game. And two, this is their prime years. They got to make that money when they can make the money, because they know that after a certain amount of time, your economic viability is gonna tank. But the women, because for similar reasons, their economic viability as basketball players will also tank, but their chances to be mothers are going to also tank even quicker. So they are swapping a couple of years out, odds and ends. I guess not only is the game different, but big shocker, human beings are just simply different. And so there's certain things where you and I could sit here and come up with some neat ideas on how to fix it. But you can't fix it's not broken. They're just different.
Right. And that's the big thing that a lot of the people from the outside looking in, who, like I've said many times throughout this whole conversation, they'd never followed women's basketball at all. And now, because of the popularity of Caitlyn Clark, they're coming into it and they just don't get it. And that's fine. I mean, not everybody's going to get it right away because they don't understand the differences. But the WNBA has an opportunity to capitalize on that. And as of right now, they're not doing a particularly great job of it. And I mean, that's league wide. And I don't know that there is a particularly easy solution, but the first step would be, like, just embrace the fact that you've got people actually watching. Like, you've sold out at least 2 or 3 games this season. That should be a good jumping off point for like taking momentum into the future.
Well, Justin, we're out of time. You've ruined the whole show with the WNBA. All right, so Justin, where can people go to support you and get more of your content?
Oh, you can find the Fact Check This podcast on YouTube, Rumble, right there on Spotify for the actually do audio and video on Spotify. Fact Check This Substack, where I write stuff that we were going to talk about today before we ended up talking about nothing but WNBA. Mm-hmm. And then I also do a morning show called The Morning After, and we're on YouTube. If you want to find us, you have to search for Vasectomy Clubhouse, because The Morning After just takes you to a bunch of random bullshit videos. But Vasectomy Clubhouse will get you straight to us every single time.
Wow, this is talking about dumb gay shit. Jesus Christ. All right, so anyway, Justin, we'll have to have you back on sooner than most, because that entire other list of the real topics, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, we completely skipped the actual conversation.
All right, well, guys, we're going to be back to wrap up the show right after this commercial break. Don't go away. If you're enjoying tonight's show, consider supporting the program by becoming a member of our Patreon. That's over at patreon.com/Alan Mosley. Like our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Alan Mosley TV. You can join me on Twitter. It's twitter.com/Alan Mosley TV. Subscribe to our YouTube page. It's youtube.com/Alan Mosley TV. But if you're more of a listener than a watcher, hi Robert. Hey buddy, thanks for coming this weekend. It's a Spotify, It's Too Late, Alan Mosley TV. We don't need that one anymore. I think the site, you can still go to the site and give us money, I think, actually.
Oh yeah.
You can buy tickets. I mean, who am I to tell you what to do with your money, you know?
Oh.
Yeah. You can get a commemorative ticket now. I'm going to launch the site again, and it's going to be for commemorative VIPs. So if somebody buys a super VIP, Dave, you got to ship them a little badge.
A lanyard. Okay.
Yeah. What do you think, Dave? Got a final thought?
Did you guys really just talk about women's basketball that whole time?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That was cool. People seem to like it.
Yeah, what's weird is that there's 380 viewers right now, and a bunch of people in chat started talking about women's basketball.
You're bringing it back. Hyping it up.
How can it become back to where it's never been? I mean, come on now. After party?
Real quick.
Yeah, ooh, yeah. You're going back to work.
Yeah.
So we
I got some stuff to do.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for watching another episode of It's Too Late, and we will see you next week.
Oh.
You gonna make it?
Yeah, that should be all right.
Man, what a banger.
Been a long weekend.
Banger alert.
I think that went well.
It's good to be back. Lots of energy. Lots of people here. Lots of people were here this weekend. So grateful to see everybody. I got so many awesome gifts. We'll share some stuff in the after party. Some of the things that people brought. We sold like 16 different Yankees Confederate flags, so we're doing our part.